Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Yo, you there? Andy,
Hello?
can you hear me, motherfucker?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Well, we're rolling, so I just give us a countdown and we'll get going if you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. In 5, 4, 3. Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and welcome to a very special edition of the Midnight Black Mass. I am your host, the man Dan Wilson, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, alongside my partner for this episode, the Hollywood Hacksaw, Andrew Alexander. How's it going, man?
I like that throwback, and I got to tell you, man, it seems odd for Hooters to have all-you-can-eat wings because you're going to eat so many wings that even if you get a chance to fuck a waitress, you ain't going to be able to. You're going to be so bloated, your dick ain't going to get hard, and your jizz is probably going to taste like barbecue sauce. But I digress.
That's why you just go get an HJ on the patio, right?
That's exactly right. But don't go on all-you-can-eat wings. Just have a reasonable amount of wings and then blow a load in a chick's face. That's what I say.
And you know the advice of Andrew Alexander would never steer you wrong, ladies and gentlemen. So listen and listen good when he speaks.
Fuck no, I don't steer nobody wrong.
Well, how was your week?
Oh man, good week, good times, just rolling. I think by the time this drops on Sunday, I'll probably be at the Motley Crue concert in Atlanta, Georgia. The last time. I mean, I can't imagine any circumstance where I'll get to see those guys again, but definitely a bittersweet thing. But I thought the last time I saw them would be the last time, but they made that second leg of the tour and coming back around, so I'm going to hit that up. So I'm definitely excited about that. Man, just a good week, some good wrestling with SummerSlam, and WWE had a big three-night stay up there in Brooklyn, so can't complain. Nothing to complain about.
Yeah, I enjoyed the SummerSlam. It was fine. A lot of fun, they always pull out all the stops to the big events. Any overall thoughts on? I actually thought the NXT event was phenomenal, and I thought SummerSlam was pretty damn good too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still, I've just been watching highlights of Raw and SmackDown, and I'm just, I'm not as enthralled with wrestling as I have been, the rest of my life. But I definitely enjoyed it. I liked watching it. The NXT show was really good, really solid. I think they've done such a great job with making those shows so huge that this show, I think the build of it being in this huge arena and things like that was a little bit bigger than the action, which the action wasn't bad. It's just that they've produced so well on all of their other takeover shows. But I definitely liked the show. The women's match was, pretty stellar. The crowd was ridiculously hot. It shows that those NXT, the chicks down there and the way they've produced that has just really been on point. Great story with, Bailey winning the title for the first time, and they had their little click moment afterwards, which, it wasn't bad, but I think, if you saw, Sasha Banks, there wasn't any hesitation. She just lost the belt. She's the boss. She lost the title to Bailey, and she wasn't even like, okay, you've earned my respect, kid. I like you. She just jumped up and hugged her and was like, oh, we love each other. We're the Four Horsewomen, you know. But it was still a cool moment. The people eat that up, and the ladder match was, you know, as good as like you would expect. You know, these Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, these guys have been delivering, and I mean the whole show was good.
Yeah,
and SummerSlam, same thing. You know, they made it, you know, a WrestleMania light. It bumped it to 4 hours. Really good, solid matches. I mean, I actually messaged him just because I had to tell him, but I thought, man, our buddy Xavier Woods was like knocking home runs, just being entertaining as fuck at both SummerSlam and Raw the next night, which featured, you know, Return of the Dudley Boys, which is huge, and you know he took the 3D to the table, which I'm sure is he had a little mark out in his mind, but I had to message him and just say, hey man, just want to let you know that you were cracking me up, and just keep doing what you're doing, because he was just entertaining as fuck, I thought.
Yeah, I actually talked to him also. I was just, you know, checking to see if he was going to be at Dragon Con, and I had seen that the shit with the trumpet was just too fucking funny, and then the Dudley spot was great, and I told him that, you know, he needed to start every day off by debunking Virgil on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that, but Virgil was going around claiming that Xavier Woods was his son.
Oh. What?
And Xavier responded with, he said, actually, no, I'm not your son. And as a matter of fact, I met you when I was 17, and you told me I'd never make it in wrestling because I was black.
That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
And then the very next night, you know, he's got like these major spots. I was, you know, you need to fucking throw shade at Virgil every day.
Oh yeah, but I mean, but the singing and fucking, I mean, and Kofi was doing a great job too. But Big E, like dancing and like running around the ring celebrating, dude. That, I mean, I was rolling. I love that shit. I thought they did a great job. I was really, really happy for those guys. And I mean, Lesnar Taker, I thought was leaps and bounds better than the Mania match. Finish wasn't bad. You know, obviously, some could say it was maybe been overthought a little bit, but you know, sometimes you book yourself into situations where it's tough to get out of. Kind of the same thing with the John Cena, Seth Rollins. I thought they had a hell of a match. Just, I mean, definitely a good weekend to be a wrestling fan. And funny, we're talking a little bit about Xavier Woods. You know, he worked with us at the old NWA Anarchy, now just known as Anarchy, or now just known as To Be Determined, because they had quite a big show this past Saturday too, kind of out of nowhere.
They did, and we're actually dedicating the entire episode this week to NWA Anarchy / Anarchy Wrestling discussion. As we found out, very short notice, you know, had I known or had, you know, a little more time to make some plans, I would have liked to have gone down there, knowing it was going to be the final show of NWA / Anarchy Wrestling. And it's been a crazy few years since I've left the company. It was completely unrelated, but I was a full-timer from the time they started in 2005, not from the very first day they opened the doors. You actually were. But I was there from late 2005 after taking a brief break from wrestling after NWA Wildside closed, and I remained there as a full-timer until 2012. And then, you know, I've only made sporadic appearances since then, sort of as a guest star, trying to stay closer to home, you know, dealing with my parental and adult responsibilities. But a place near and dear to both of our hearts, over the show, you know, we like the history of Wildside is so celebrated, and Anarchy being the current thing, you know, nobody really took a lot of time to evaluate the history, but now that it is officially closed, you know, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about our experiences there, the history, what made it different from Wildside, some of our favorite moments, and just pay tribute to a great wrestling promotion, because there's not a lot of them in the independent world, and especially in the southern United States, and they were the standard bearer for many years, carrying the torch forward that NWA Wildside passed in that same building, the cherished Church of Southern Wrestling in Cornelia, Georgia, down on Level Grove Road. Just any initial thoughts on the end of Anarchy? Now, Ed, before I get to that, actually, you did mention it briefly. New ownership has taken over. It's not been announced publicly. I know who the new owner is, but I'm not going to spill the beans here. It's not my spot. But there is a new owner. They're taking over the building. They're changing the name of the promotion, and they are moving forward with wrestling, and looks to be some of the same veterans and leaders from before will probably be involved, and some new faces as well, looking for a new direction for the company and trying to rebrand, much like Anarchy did after Wildside closed and kind of created its own era of great wrestling there. So anyhow, your thoughts on sort of this late notice of the company coming to an end?
Yeah, when you said, hey, let's talk about Anarchy on the show, I'm all for that because, and something to touch on what you just said, when Wildside closed, and I had I'd done some of the Friday night shows for Wildside. I was the smallest footnote in Wildside history imaginable, but I enjoyed any time I was there, any show I experienced, and the history of that company is, like you said, well documented. But when it shut down and it was announced that this new thing was going to take place with some new faces, some familiar faces of Anarchy, there was a lot of people that were kind of like, oh, it's not going to work. It's not going to be the same. And it wasn't the same. But in a lot of ways, it didn't live up to Wildside, but in a lot of ways, it outshined Wildside. It was a completely different thing, and it was a thing that, it created stars that went on to a national level. It created moments that touched, really emotional moments that the business is based on, and it did an amazing job in the past 10 years of creating its own legacy. So whatever happens in the future, it's going to be new, but I think it's really important to remember and to give it a chance, because there was people that kind of wanted to write Anarchy off before it ever started, and it really took off, and there were years there, several years, where it was just a huge force in independent wrestling, and I hope we can knock it out in one show, but I think we could both go on and on about Anarchy, because I was on the first Anarchy show. It was before they even got the television back that Bill Behrens helped provide, and things such as that. And I was kind of out a little bit there at the beginning, and especially when things got going really strong with the Devil's Rejects thing that you were obviously a key part of. But then I come back, and I'm pretty in the history of Anarchy Wrestling. I know that I was a small footnote in that company as well. But which is fine, but Anarchy Wrestling in my life and in my career is a huge, huge part of both, I think, me as a person and as me as someone involved in the professional wrestling business, man, because moments that I had in that building and in that company, matches I had, people that I met, and friendship and stuff that I saw, like people going on to great heights, like an Xavier Woods, like a Phil Shatter, like a Stephen Walters, guys that I was, buddies with, and just stories that were told in the ring and things that happened, definitely influenced me so much. I can't even begin to say, I hope we can in one episode cover, because I know you were not a footnote in the history of Anarchy. You were a huge, star player, you and the different incarnations of the Devil's Rejects over there.
Yeah, it was a really special time in my life as well. You talk about how Anarchy did all these great things, and there's things that Wildside did as well. But one thing Anarchy did, they got there in a different way. They had a different path to success, and they had to. Because Wildside had this great reputation of bringing in all these talents from all over the country, and several guys going on to getting signed, just like happened in Anarchy. That was one thing that definitely didn't change. The great moments, that didn't change. But what did change was sort of the style of storytelling. With Wildside, our philosophy was very much keeping up with the Joneses as far as what was hot in independent wrestling, trying to stay ahead of that curve, being innovators in many ways, in which we were, especially when you look at like Jason Cross versus AJ Styles matches. You know, they were doing stuff light years ahead of their time that guys in Ring of Honor today still even couldn't keep up with in some cases, you know. And so that was what Wildside was about. Anarchy, from the very beginning, it went through several ownership changes in the early days. Actually, Rick Michaels was the initial owner. He came in, and there was some non-wrestling things that pulled him out of that picture. And then Al Getz took over. And Al Getz was the booker during the time that Rick was the owner, but it was somewhat of a tumultuous time. I believe there was a bit of a back and forth with another promoter who had allegedly bought in. And in any event, within the first couple of months, Jerry Palmer came in, who was very inexperienced in wrestling, but was a guy who's a local personality and a popular guy in the area and a sort of a community leader. And he came in and purchased the company. And the direction that was started with Al Getz, which was lived through for the first couple of years, a lot of his booking ideas were stuff that, you know, was originally set in place by him. And you know, then Bill Behrens and Todd Sexton sort of came back in the picture and took over from there and developed their own legacy in the booking department. But it was a decidedly more old school mindset. And as a result, and like with Jerry's promoting, which Bill, you know, as the former promoter of Wilds, I would always tell you, his promoting skills were terrible. His skills lied in developing talent and booking talent and producing TV. And so, you know, he was never the greatest promoter. But Jerry was, especially in those early days when he was motivated and it was all fresh and new to everybody. And, you know, we did business that far exceeded anything that Wildside ever did at Anarchy. And we drew really levels of heat that were, I mean, there was a couple of moments in the early Wildside that were comparable, but overall Anarchy drew levels of heat and excitement and financial windfall at the gate more than Wildside. And it was based more on really steeping kind of back into that old school mindset because it was something different from what they had seen, which was also a success. And so the Rejects thing came about. I had, you know, had a lengthy tenure as the lead play-by-play announcer at Wildside. I had joined a band, and we were out having some moderate success in the region and traveling around and doing shows. And, you know, I was just kind of taking a break from wrestling. And it all kind of came at the right time. I was going through a really shitty time. The band was doing okay, but my marriage at the time, my first marriage, was crumbling. And it ended up fucking going to hell in a handbasket. So I was in this very dark place in my life, and they, like, Al Getz had this idea right before he left. He was going to introduce this mystery voice who was leading us. That was pretty much all it was. You know, they played these audio clips of, like, with a distorted voice over the PA that somebody was coming, a storm was coming. You know, the future was going to...
Was it Ole Anderson?
Yeah, I think it may have been. Sting. My black magic Sting.
Okay. I'm sorry, I cut you off, man. That's a good one, though.
No, it's fine. But so anyway, so they're playing these voice clips over the PA. And, you know, Alf didn't really know who was going to be revealed as the thing, and he and Tank were sitting in a room, and apparently around the same time came up with the idea, hey, why don't we see if Dan wants to do it? And sure enough, like, the thing with the band was kind of fizzling at that point, so it was pretty much the perfect time to jump back on board, and I came up with the Reverend, which launched a whole second part of my career. I've essentially had 2 wrestling careers, which has been fucking awesome as a result of that. And the Reverend was the leader of the Devil's Rejects, and we were pissed because they closed Wildside down, and our original goal was to get the baddest motherfuckers from the original Wildside crew, and we were going to burn Anarchy to the ground because they were defacing our great heritage by starting up this new company. And the people really got behind it, and the locals got behind it, and we soon had Team Anarchy led by Jerry Palmer taking on the Devil's Rejects, leading to War Games, and it ended up being the feud that set the tone for the company and popped the territory for like 2 years. So, yeah, I can't understate at all or overstate rather, just how important it was to my career.
Yeah, it was amazing stuff to see on a smaller independent promotion level. It really was, and then being a part of it and just getting to see, me working, mid-card type matches, but seeing all this other stuff unfold was always really special and amazing. And I definitely want to talk about, we obviously can't talk about everyone, which is a shame, but I definitely want to talk about like some different guys and maybe some different moments. But real quick, what Anarchy did for me, first and foremost, is I've gotten a decent amount of acclaim for being, a pretty decent booker in the state of Georgia. And the biggest part of the education on that absolutely came from my time spent at Anarchy, watching how things were done, how things were presented for a television product. Even though Empire doesn't have television, it is still, if you know what you're looking for, it's still booked in many ways as a television product, because I would like to see someone from our roster, anyone at any point, make it to a larger platform that is on television. So seeing those things, seeing the ways things were built angle-wise to, big shows, quarterly big shows, especially the format of the War Games, I've clearly, plain as day, taken many of those, tricks from Anarchy and presented them at Empire, not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. Sometimes when something's worked, you just stick to it. And I've said, and it's not fair not to say, because it's not a knock, it's not a bad thing at all, but I learned a lot of things what not to do from booking, from how to book talent and how to get the most out of talent. I learned things that, okay, this is not how you do it. You have to do it a different way, which is just as important, knowing how to book things the right way. And there was a point where you were the booker at Anarchy, and I didn't come up with anything crazy, and I'm not taking credit for anything, but, there were times where a lot of parts of the show, you would ask me, what should we do here? What should we do there? What should we do with this guy? And, just throwing ideas and just getting a feel for how that works, things like that. And then after you stepped down as booker, and I know there was a point where Iceberg was in charge, I got asked my opinion on a lot of different things at that point too, and even got to book an angle that didn't quite play out to the end because of other management changes, and then I ended up leaving the company as well. But, I got to book a little bit there. So that was kind of my first steps into actually booking something and putting something out there and seeing it, start and have a middle and play out and all these bumps and ups and downs in the road. So just from a professional, not even looking at matches I had and memories and just people, but from what I took from it, I mean, Bill Behrens, Todd Sexton, you, Jeff G. Bailey, Iceberg, a lot of talent, definitely the top guys that I owe credit to for any success that I've had after my in-ring career was quote-unquote over.
There's an old wrestling philosophy that, it used to be the way you had to do it in the business. Of course, things change so much now. But, you usually couldn't become a booker somewhere until you'd worked as an assistant with another booker who was experienced. And I had sort of my tenure there, and I was never, like, a great booker. I always thought I had some good ideas. But, as far as, like, the big picture, I don't think I was a great booker, but I think it was okay. And but I got to work under Bill Behrens in the Wildside days for many years as his assistant. And so you get to start pitching ideas in that role and kind of getting a feeling out process and learning, like you said, what to do and what not to do. Because, the best laid plans of mice and men, even the best bookers, throw out ideas that just get over like a fart in church. And
absolutely.
So You have to be able to adapt and look at the thing objectively and find out why it sucked a dick and why people took a big shit on it. And sometimes there's not a reason. Sometimes it was just bad luck. But most of the time, there's something you could have done differently, and you can learn that through your mistakes as well as your successes. But like you said, so many great moments and talent that came through there. I guess we could. Just to show what kind of credibility the company had right now, we can talk a little bit about some of the guys who went on to greater stardom from Anarchy. Now, there were guys who came in the door, had a cup of coffee here or there, and went on to great things that probably wouldn't consider them Anarchy homegrown guys or guys that really got their wrestling education there. Heath Slater was a member of the roster in the very early days, and, he had just a very short stint there and was gone pretty quickly. And the recently debuted on NXT Apollo Crews, who had a pretty big indie success as Uhaa Nation. It had a very short stint down there as well. Again, probably wouldn't credit any of his wrestling education there. He just wasn't there long enough to really make any sort of impact. But there were guys who really did get a wrestling education there and went on to become big stars. Three of them right off the top that I can think of. And we've already talked about a couple of them, or maybe even all three of them on the episode. But, of course, one was Xavier Woods of the New Day. We met this guy doing a gimmick called, he wasn't even Consequences. He was Awesome Austin Creed at the time. And he came into the company through Brody Ray Chase, I do believe, who was a great liaison with the company, who helped get a lot of talent and also became a great veteran leader in the locker room eventually, and even a big star for the company. But Austin came in, and this young guy's in shape. He's doing this Apollo Creed gimmick. Comes out to Living in America. He was very green at the time. His work wasn't super polished, but you could tell he just had that unique star power, and he was teamed up with a guy named Hayden Young as the Awesome Attraction. We both got to work with them a great deal. You teaming with Kyle Matthews as the Hollywood Brunettes, and my Devil's Rejects team of Azrael and Sean Tempers had a several-month-long feud with them over the Anarchy Tag Team titles. So, he was a great talent to watch grow from the time he came to the time he left. You knew he was destined for big things.
Yeah, and I remember, because I have a very good memory about stuff, and hopefully we can touch on some of that here, but I remember you definitely saying the words, well, we're not going to have that kid long. I remember that verbatim because, he looked like $1 million. He's so educated, very well spoken. And I remember he talked about this recently on Jericho's podcast, and I remember seeing this information. But when he went to then WWE developmental system Deep South here in Georgia, and he basically had like a folder with a resume and an 8x10 and a DVD, like the most professional shit I've ever seen in the wrestling business, trying to get a job. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a whole nother level. Like, I've never seen or heard of anything like that, the way he has this presented, to take to someone and hand to him and say, here's my work, hire me. And sure as shit, he got a break in TNA, which it's my understanding, I could be wrong, that AJ Styles really helped there because they were looking at someone in the Georgia area, and AJ said, well, hey, I know this young kid, let's give him a shot. And boom, he debuted in TNA, teaming with Truth, changed his name to Consequences, and they had the Truth and Consequences thing for about 30 seconds. But it obviously helped segue because that's how he debuted in the WWE as well. But you're right. I mean, his work, he was a good worker. He didn't at first. It was more his attitude and his presence and his physique and his willing to learn that stood out more than his actual work, which that could tell young talent, sometimes those things are a lot more important than having the 5-star match. Him and Hayden Young were a great team. It was one of those makeshift things that just happened. And I know when me and Kyle made our debut in the company as the Hollywood Brunettes, we were super excited because I'm not tooting my own horn, but there's different ways to get into a promotion, especially a successful one like Anarchy. And we did it the hard way. We made a name for ourselves outside of the company to where Todd Sexton is calling us saying, hey, we want you guys to come in. And I was very proud of that. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I was very excited about the way that went down. And when we came in, that was our first thing. We attacked, the then tag team champions, Austin Creed and Hayden Young, and which led to, I think maybe if you look at the peak, the pinnacle of Anarchy success is the show that we had at the Georgia Mountain Center where we outdrew, TNA had run there previously, and we outdrew them. We had a huge show, main evented by a War Games match, but, on the undercard was this triple threat tag team ladder match, and it was Adrian Hawkins, Seth DeLay, myself and Kyle, and Austin, a.k.a. Xavier Woods, and Hayden Young, and man, that match, that was one of the greatest matches I ever had. I would hope that maybe those other 5 men would agree, because here we were, the biggest show in the company's history, and there were great matches on that show. I think Slim J or Patrick Bentley, and that's when Patrick Bentley joined you at the Rejects, I believe, and that match was just phenomenal, and the War Games was insane. But I think the ladder match stole the show that night, and it went on to win the Georgia Wrestling Match of the Year, which we know those accolades don't necessarily mean as much as they sound, but they are still really cool, and it's still something to be proud of that, hey, I was in the Match of the Year, and we all, that was all really special to us. And I remember it was the first time in my career, and I think a lot of our, we're all pretty young guys. Seth had been working quite a while, but, when we come to the curtain, the locker room gave us a standing ovation, and I'm sure you remember, but I broke down and probably cried harder than I've ever cried in my life, because I've never received that type of respect from the boys, and that was all. We all worked our ass off that night, and we had a just amazing match. And Creed, Woods, whatever, he was just a huge part of that success. And you were right. He was there a little while, but it wasn't long. But he was on doing some bigger and better things, and he hasn't looked back. And I think he's been stealing the show here lately. So hopefully he has a great career in the WWE.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of those guys that really got that education there, and it's the same goes for the Wild Side guys, they never forgot where they came from. You can probably go ask Keith Slater if he remembers working at NWA Anarchy, and he'd probably blow you off or say, maybe, I remember working there a show or two. But, you're asking Xavier Woods what that experience meant to him, and he's going to tell you a whole different story. And the same would go for the next guy we'll talk about. Of course, the guy we've had on the show a couple times, and just, dear friend of both of ours, and one of the guy we say is the best unsigned talent in the business today, Gunner, formerly of Impact Wrestling. Gotta hope he's got a future in WWE or New Japan coming somewhere soon. Clearly one of the fastest rising stars in the business. This guy's got all the tools, but he came right up there as what we called the puppy with big paws, Phil Shatter. I remember he came in, he was a big dude, he was fresh out of the Marine Corps, was not as ripped as he is now. Now he looks like a human action figure, but back then he was a pretty thick dude. And, he wasn't fat by any means. He was just a big hoss of a guy, a Dr. Death or a Terry Gordy type in terms of his size. But, he really leaned up. And that's a guy who he learned so fast. He came in, his actual work wasn't that great, but he would go to any length to get the match over, including just fucking killing himself. It's like, he's huge. You didn't need to do that. But he always had the best attitude and was always just a sponge. He just wanted to learn as much as he could. He picked everybody's brain. He really got close to guys like me and Bailey who, really worked with him on a hands-on level. And Bailey in particular, because he was his actual manager for many years, so they had the experience actually traveling the roads together, not just doing Anarchy, but a lot of other shows off of Anarchy that they would get bookings off of from the NWA Elite Act. And that's a guy I couldn't be more proud of as far as, what he's turned out to be in the business. And I, like we've said many times, I think we've only just seen the tip of the iceberg of his success.
Yeah, I met him. he started with Anarchy. Him and his then partner, Truett Fields, who's someone else I would definitely like to mention a little bit here. They started probably a month before me and Kyle started. Like, we went to one of the big shows in Helen just to hang out in the locker room. And I knew most of the people there. Kyle didn't, but I knew most of the people, but there's still a couple of people, wanted to meet and just introduce ourselves. And, we were coming in, and this is another quote that I just thought was really funny. Like you said, he was very green. I would say both of them were, but they just had this raw power, and you could see a whole lot in them. But I think they were still really good talents. But I remember, I think it was you, was like, hey, you and Kyle, I think when y'all come in, you're going to work with this guy, Shatter and Truett, and y'all can really, teach them, how to work and how to, get them over and stuff. And we were like, cool. And then we watched their match, and I remember going, what the fuck are they going to learn from us? These guys are badass. I never said that because I was just open to doing anything, and I thought, sure, I'll work with these guys, because working big guys when you're smaller, it's an easy story. So I was like, sure, but I remember we watched them, and we were both like, man, we're not going to teach those motherfuckers nothing. Those guys are amazing. And, like you said, he was raw, and it was like overnight, okay, let's put him with Bailey. Okay, he's the best independent talent in the country. He should be signed. Within a 3-month stretch of time, it was night and day. And he transformed his body, which his body was already amazing, but he got more ripped and more lean. And I got to know him really well on a personal level, and even there's a short time where we actually had shared the same shoot job, outside of the wrestling business. So, we're together, 20 plus hours a week, because he kind of traveled a little bit, and I was at the warehouse, but he would come back, and we would always just be talking. And man, this guy, he not only got it, but he wanted it. He had the passion. He had, unbelievable passion. When you hear of someone that all they do is eat and breathe wrestling, that was Bill Shatter. I can vouch for that firsthand, that this guy was, he was going to make it. And that's why he did. He never, it's like he had complete tunnel vision. Nothing else in the world mattered but professional wrestling, and that's why he's become such a success. And it's great too, because he really is a great guy. Like you said, I think he would credit, and I know he's still, probably in the last year, he's been back to Cornelia, the building, the Anarchy building, a time or two, and I don't think he forgets where he comes from, and he's always he's always been a humble guy. Just a really good dude. While we're on the topic, I think Truett Fields, if anybody remembers his partner, it's been several years, but that guy should have got signed too. I know he got looked at and had some tryouts, but this guy was he was a fucking monster. Wasn't there a point where he had 0.03 body fat or something ridiculous? Don't you remember? He almost looked scary. You're like, dude, you need to eat something, because he was so jacked up and lean. He looked like a 1988 Luger, but could work, but was a better worker. I believe that. This guy was amazing, and he wanted it a little quicker. He had other goals, because I got to know him pretty well too, and he had, he wanted to start a family and things such that, which he got to do. So he didn't necessarily stick with it as long as Shatter. If he would have, he would have, I think he would have been signed somewhere as well, because he was so good and looked like $1 million. And, I got to know his family pretty good, and they're great people. And I remember, one time they asked me, I think kind of getting it, because, if you've got a kid who's trying to get signed, you don't even know what you're talking about, but you're like, oh, he's going to get signed. I believe in my boy, which, is good parenting. But I think they asked me, kind of wondering what an outsider's perspective would be. And they're like, do you think Truett can get signed? And I said, absolutely. He definitely should not give up. He should stay focused and keep pushing, and, the cream rises. And I remember, here's just a little side story. This was one of the times where I knew, okay, I might not make it as far as in the wrestling business as I want to, because, I was at his house really late at night, and I'd say about 3:30, 4 in the morning, he gets up, and he goes into the kitchen, I was like, okay, he's getting some water or something. And I asked his sister, I'm like, hey, what the fuck is your brother doing? Because I hear all this banging in the kitchen and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck is your brother doing? And she goes, oh, he's just making a protein shake. He does that every night. And I was like, so wait a minute. This motherfucker wakes up at 3:30 in the morning, gets up, drinks a nasty-ass protein shake, and goes back to bed. And she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's a whole nother level. I'm never going to wake up at 4 in the morning to drink a protein shake and go back to sleep. Like, that's why guys like him should make it, and guys like me will not. That's a true story. That's a shoot. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing?
That's the level of dedication it takes. I always kind of wondered what happened to him. And so, interesting that I just knew he left, and, I had a lot of shit going on at the time he left, so I really wasn't paying attention to the situation. We'd booked a program with him and Tempers with a TV title, and that went pretty well. And we did this deal where Tempers kind of did a fake babyface turn, and of course it was all a ruse. And that ended up, it was designed to really take it to the next level, but I don't know what we never really got to see it all the way through, as he left pretty much right at the end of that. But
yeah,
great.
I think he turned heel. I think he turned heel for a minute, and then like I said, I've lost contact with him, which is 100% my fault, and I hate that, because I definitely miss him. And like I said, his mom, dad, and sister are great people. But he got engaged. He wanted to get married. I know he had a son a couple of years ago. He just wanted to move on to that phase in life, which is nothing wrong with that. And instead of being one of the guys who tries to juggle his time and still try to chase this, he just put all his time into that, and had a good job with security and things like that. And I haven't spoke to him in a while, which really sucks, but that was just kind of the story there. But I mean, this is a guy that, Shatter was 1 and Pruitt was 1A, because they were machines, and they were a whole new level of professional wrestler and professional athlete for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did a lot of good business for Anarchy and provided some memorable moments in the ring as well during that time. The other guy, of course, you see him every week on NXT now as one half of a new tag team. They actually were called the Mechanics for a minute, but they seem to have dropped that. Now known as Dash Wilder in the WWE, part of one of the hottest brands in all of wrestling. Came right up through Anarchy for many, many years. Was there, probably had the longest tenure of any of those guys. I know for a fact he did, actually. Used to be known as Stephen Walters. Got his early success as one half of the New Wave. I know you've worked a lot with those guys in tag team action, so you probably have quite an intimate knowledge of him.
Yeah, our first matches at Anarchy were against each other. Me and Kyle, as the Hollywood Brunettes, faced. They didn't even have the name The New Wave, but Stephen Walters and Derek Driver, both of our debut. And it was just so funny. We used to bring this up because that's another guy, man. He's such a good guy. Derek Drivers was as well. I've lost touch with him as well. He was another guy that, I've said it before, and it's not a knock on Walters at all, but if you would have asked 100 people who's going to get signed from this team, 100 people would have said Derek Drivers, because this guy was an animal, had like the best physique. I was like, how often do you work out? And he's like, oh, sometimes. And this guy was jacked, had that nice tan, freaking beautiful, long, flowing locks. I mean, this guy was just, I don't know how he didn't get signed. I think he's another guy that maybe just didn't stick with it like Walters did. But, Walters kept going and eventually, got a tryout. Regal loved him, and rightfully so. Got him some bookings overseas, Europe, and things such as that. And, now he's making waves. And, again, it's so great because this is one of the good guys in wrestling. He's such a great guy. I texted him I texted him Sunday. Just, I try not to. I can text Gunner and Dash and Xavier. I can message these guys anytime I want. They don't big shot me. They don't like, oh, this guy. I don't want to bug them. I don't want to bother them. They're busy. They're out there traveling and doing their thing. But I just wanted to touch base with him and ask him about, because he worked before the takeover went live. He did an 8-man tag, and I asked him if that was the biggest crowd he's ever worked, and he said yes. And he said it was insane. I just asked him if he's ever freaked out, like if he ever just really thinks about, the position he's in and the position and he told me after his match, I don't want to say who, but someone extremely important in the world of the WWE, comes up to him and gives him a hug after the match, and I was just like, holy shit, like, this is the type of thing that would just blow my mind, and of course you got to be a pro and everything, but it's so crazy to think about that, just a couple of years ago he was sweating his ass off in some random ass building in Cornelia, and now he's working in front of 16,000 people in New York.
Yeah, it really is. And the change of style, of course, that he's adopted, when he went to England, he sort of, he really, really got into that British mat-based style and catch-can. And, he was known as a high flyer for the guy who was known for the longest time as the guy who did the 450 splash between the ladder. Like there was in the ladder match, one of the several ladder matches you guys had, there was a ladder set up in the ring, and the opponent laying in front of the ladder in the middle of the ring, and Dash Wilder was on the outside with Stephen Walters at the time. He springboards, hits the top rope, does a 450 in between the arch of the fucking ladder, and hits the guy. It's just one of the damnedest things anybody had ever seen. And, he's known for years, but now, of course, their whole gimmick is no flips, just fists. But I've got some video evidence of some major flips.
Yeah, we can mess this shit up. That match, that match was really, really special to me, and I think pretty much most of the guys in that match, because we weren't supposed to be in that spot. It was always my understanding, though it wasn't confirmed, but it was definitely rumored that there was supposed to be another ladder match with a couple guys, and basically some of them just didn't want to do it. So at the last minute, they said, you 4 teams are going to be in a ladder match for a shot at the tag team titles. It was just this thrown together thing, and it was a case where all 4 of us was like, this ain't even supposed to be our spot. They're just throwing us this bone just to kind of have something for us to do on the show, and we're going to take it, and we're going to run with it, and we're going to show them that all of us, definitely belong and should be given better spots. And I know, 2 of the teams, New Wave, who we mentioned, and Talent Money, came out of that, just they had a huge program together that did so very well and had some amazing matches. And a funny story about the ladder match, just to talk about Dash's former partner, Derek Drivers, who we've mentioned, just how awesome he is. And I know but many fans may not know that this guy was just so super quiet, like so laid back, just never really spoke up. Just always seemed like he was just kind of watching and seeing what was going on, but never cut up a lot, just really quiet and everything. And when I get there for the ladder match, some of it had already been put together, which, funny enough, we watched him practice, jumping through that ladder, and the very first time he tried it, he just eats shit, like trips and falls stomach first on these, the middle of the ladder, and just it looked horrible. And we were like, yeah, man, that's probably not going to work. And he says, no, I'll nail it. And he didn't want to practice it again. And we were all just really scared, like, holy shit, man, it's going to be fucked up. But, of course, it wasn't. But in that match, when I got there, I personally kind of had this feeling that a lot of the match was put together and designed where it just, I just wasn't doing anything that you would look for in a ladder match. Like it was almost from some people putting together like a Andy can't do that shit. And I was instantly, when I felt that, I was like, oh, fuck this. And so I just started throwing out these ideas, like most of which were insane. Like I was gonna fuck shit up in this match. I personally was coming to be like, okay, anybody that thinks that I can't hang in here with these guys, they're fucking mistaken. So I asked drivers, I said, you know what, something we could do off this ladder that's never been done. And he says, well, like, what if you stood up on the ladder and I jumped up and I gave you a reverse Rana, which is obviously a Hurricane Rana just backwards, to where the person taking it would be basically taking a moonsault, which I can't do, and I've never been able to do. And I was like, yeah, man. And, you know, some people standing around, they knew I couldn't do a moonsault or anything close to one. They were like, I don't think you should do that, man. You could really get hurt. And I just wasn't having it. I said, no, fuck no, we're going to do it. And we start going over it, and somebody mentions, like, you know, Bill's not going to let you do that, because it was dangerous. It was dangerous as fuck. Like, if there's anything that's ever took place in a match that could break your neck, it was this spot. And, of course, Bill's seen it, and he instantly he's like, I think you guys should do something different. I don't think you should try that. And before I could say anything, before I could, like, speak my piece or freak out and say, no, we're doing it, drivers, the most quiet man on the planet, who's never said, like, 4 words his whole wrestling career, just looks right at Bill and goes, no, we're doing it. And I was just like, oh, shit. And Bill just goes, okay. And, of course, you know, if you've ever seen the match, I know you've seen it. We went out there and did it, and it fucking killed. I mean, the whole match was amazing, but that spot specifically just, I mean, especially because I couldn't do that type of shit, which there's nothing wrong with. A lot of guys can't do that shit, and it doesn't matter. But, you know, drivers just, it was so funny to me how he stood up and was like, no, we're doing it.
So do you remember what card that was on? What event?
I want to say a Hardcore Hell, 2000. When was the Mountain Center show? 07? 08?
08.
No, I think the Mountain Center was 07. I think it was Hardcore Hell 09. No, yeah, it was Hardcore Hell 08 in the building where that ladder match was. Yeah.
Gotcha. And who was the fourth
right
team?
Before Billy Buck and Skater Boy.
They had a short-lived run, but it launched the career of Billy Buck at least.
And I mean, that's a great segue, because that's a guy I don't think it'll be fair to do this edition without talking about, for sure.
Oh man, Billy Buck was a hell of a talent. I mean, still a hell of a talent. He was he was the last Anarchy champion. Went down, you know, with the ship, so to speak, in the best way possible. And a guy who we watched come from a chubby tag team wrestler, a guy who competed on Friday nights. He was one of the most dedicated guys that company ever had. And, you know, for many years you had like Ace Rockwell kind of in that spot as the top, you know, selling babyface, the guy who could really take that ass whipping and get the people behind him. But, you know, he passed the torch ultimately to Billy Buck, and he was the guy in that spot. Very reminiscent of Dusty Rhodes in many ways, and reminiscent of Shawn Michaels and others. He's a pretty unique talent.
Yeah, definitely. I was always a huge fan of this guy, a huge fan of his work. I was on the Billy Buck bandwagon from day one, and it's not like I saw something that a lot of people didn't see, because a lot of people agreed. But there were other people that didn't necessarily, because, you know, like he started out, he was this chubby cowboy that's going to be tough to get over, working Friday night shows, busting his ass, you know, didn't say whole lot, didn't kind of stuck to himself. worked hard, and I remember, like you said, Ace Rockwell was like in this position of a top babyface, and he kind of stepped away from the company. I instantly went to Bill and was like, Billy Buck's the guy to take that spot. And it was like, oh, Billy's so easy to book. He can do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it was just kind of like, yeah, he's a great babyface to have. But I'm thinking, no, he's the babyface to have. And it's just so awesome to see that, he finally, when he had a big, like, I think it was Posey was defending the Anarchy title when I heard he was going to defend it against Billy Buck, like pretty much his first shot. I went back down there. I was like, if he's going to become Anarchy champion, I have to see it. And he did, for the first time. I think he's held it. It might have been 3 times maybe. But like you said, he was the last champion. And he was just such an awesome dude. And we formed a team, an odd couple team right before I left the company where I was basically a heel and he was the baby face, and we ended up winning the tag team titles. And it was when the company was a very weird point for the company. It was very transitional and not a whole lot was going well. And I think that we did a great job of having some good matches and working with some good tag teams. And, I just got to know him even better. And, I mean, he's an awesome dude. And a hell of a worker, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's got a bright future. And I think, whatever ends up happening with the new promotion, I'd imagine he'll be a linchpin of that. He's not a guy that we've seen travel around and try to get a lot of bookings or anything, which I don't know if that's something that he wants to do or if just, the Anarchy was his priority or what the deal is there. But I'd say he's got a future if he wants it.
I think some of it is some outside wrestling things. And, I mean, I'll go ahead and say I've only reached out to one Anarchy talent since all of this news broke about it being that last show to come to Empire, and it was Billy Buck. And with our show being on Saturdays, it's just not feasible for him to make it in time because he does live in South Carolina. So it's just really not it's not going to be able to happen, which is extremely unfortunate because I would love to have him on a roster. But, I mean, I can't say enough good about this guy. I mean, he's absolutely one of my favorite guys to watch, to work with, to be in the locker room around. Hands down, and I got a good story. And
okay.
I've never told this story. I've told it to people, but definitely never a ton of people, and never in any type of interview or podcast form, and I hope it doesn't ruffle any feathers, but, I think it's worth sharing. Excuse me. So, one night, I was with the company it was probably a month or two before I left. And New Jack was there. And New Jack would come in just periodically. He would just kind of make appearances and whatnot. I guess he's got a pretty good relationship with Bill. So New Jack was there, and I was in the locker room. I was just feeling rough, and I was wore out and tired and beat up and everything. And I was just complaining about being old. And at the time I was probably 26, 27, but I was just feeling beat the hell up. So I was like, oh, God, getting old sucks, blah, 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 blah. And I saw these 2 younger guys. I'd seen her on the shows. Well, they were like New Jack's young boys or trainees or something. So I asked one of them, I said, how old are you, man? I mean, this is pretty much verbatim how it happened. I said, how old are you, man? He goes, 21. I was like, oh, enjoy it, man. God, I wish I was 21 again. Well, New Jack walks into the locker room, and he hears this. And he just says, what's going on? And he looks at me, and I said, oh, nothing. I was just talking about getting old with this guy. I told him to enjoy being young, and he says, oh, it don't matter how old you are, blah, blah, blah. And he just kind of going off on this little mini rant, basically thinking that I was giving the guy shit for being young, which is complete opposite of what was actually happening. If anything, I was giving myself shit. But he's like, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, you go out there, everybody works hard, blah, 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 blah. And I just said, yeah, I agree. Well, while he's doing this, of course, New Jack has a reputation. So I see people in the locker room kind of sitting there like, oh, shit. Andy's about to get cut. And then suddenly, I swear, like from something from a movie, you would have to be there. You'd have to be in my position to see it, to really appreciate it. Billy Buck's behind New Jack, and he stands up, and his like head is over New Jack's shoulder, and he's looking at me. New Jack walks off, mumbling something, and Billy, and you know Billy Buck, he's super quiet. I mean, doesn't cuss, doesn't raise hell, doesn't cut up, doesn't do anything like that, doesn't cause trouble. But when New Jack walked up, Billy Buck just came up to me and he goes, if that motherfucker would have laid one hand on you, I would have fucking killed him. And my eyes got big, and I was like, what? And I was just like, yeah. I was like, what? And he goes, that was ridiculous, man. You're just trying to cut up and make these guys feel included. He comes up like that. Fuck that. Fuck him. And I was just like, hey, you calm down, Billy Buck. And from that moment, even if I wasn't a fan of his work, that's a stand-up guy right there, because every other motherfucker in that locker room sit there, and it was just like, oh, what's going to happen? And who knows if he would have tried to cut me or what the fuck ever, what would have happened. But one guy was instantly, without hesitation, like, fucker would have touched you, I would have killed him. So Billy Buck's got my support, and he's a rare breed in the wrestling business. He's an awesome dude, and I mean, I can't say enough good about him. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many great talents. You know, we talk about some of the great, of course, Bailey, Jeff G. Bailey was a fixture in Wildside and a fixture in Anarchy and so much more. He ended up going out as a babyface for the first time in his entire career. He'd been there since 1999 or even maybe 98 when they opened the doors in Cornelia. He was not a part of the original NCW in North Carolina back to 1997 when the company started its first roots. But, you know, the moment they moved to Cornelia, Bailey was a part of it, and he was the top heel all the way through the NWA Wildside years. I had my great victory unseating him as the top manager for a year to 2 years, which has never been done ever in that building, but I managed to do it. So that's the great feather in my managing career cap, was unseating Bailey from the top spot for a little bit and having all that heat. But, you know, he's just so good. No other talent, I think, in the country in that spot could manage to stay relevant, keep his heat, to be fresh and have new material all the time. And Bailey managed to do that. But, of course, he was such an important part behind the scenes as well, a mentor to so many young guys over the years, myself included, you, and so many more. It just, you know, he helped people in immeasurable ways, because the Bailey you see on television, not that far off from the Bailey you know in real life. And you know, that honesty is refreshing. And if he likes you, he will tell you absolutely what the fuck he thinks with no hesitation, for your betterment usually. And you know, many guys benefited from that, and just to see him go out as a babyface was the craziest thing, as he knew it was finally time. After almost 20 years as the top heel manager there, with very few exceptions, he turns babyface and goes out a hero in a bloody War Games match, and that's just so surreal to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy that I can't say enough good about. Man, and I've always it's kind of boggled my mind that me and him just became. I mean, I consider him a friend. Like, we've become pretty good friends just because seeing him and getting to know him. You know, he's not going to go out of his way to be buddy with anybody, and he has this presence and attitude where most people aren't going to go out of their way to go up to him and talk to him and stuff. You know, a mixture of knowing you, and you were closer to him, and then when the first time he ever saw me, I was doing the one-man hairband gimmick, and, he's a fan of that type of music, so he took at least a little bit, enough of a liking to know, to be like, okay, this guy's not a total shithead like every other guy here on Friday night. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I always enjoy any time that we meet up, talking about wrestling, and we have some similar tastes in wrestling, but we also have very different tastes. So we always have great discussions, and he saw so much stuff growing up in the Carolinas. Music, we share a lot of common stuff. We've all been to concerts together, and yeah, he's one of my favorite guys. It's weird because, like, I discovered NWA Wildside before, like, right when I got in the wrestling business. I saw it on TV. And I was like, oh, what is this? It has a syndication late night. And he was on there. And he had the NWA Elite. And then when I went for some of those Friday shows, I was instantly like, I don't think I've ever told him this. I was always like, that's what I want to be in that group. I want to be managed by Bailey and be in the NWA Elite. That's my goal. And because at the time, and pretty much throughout the whole time, he didn't have like a junior heavyweight guy. He always had these big monsters and stuff. So that was like, from afar, that was my goal. That's what I wanted. And here's something I know I've never told him, because, when I cut my hair and dropped the hairband gimmick, people were just outraged, but him especially, like, you dumb motherfucker, you had the best gimmick of the world, and now you're just like every other one of these shitheads. And I totally get what he's saying. He definitely had, massive points. But professionally, the number one reason why I did that is because, I wanted to improve and not just be a character. I wanted to get better in the ring. But the number one reason I did that is because I was like, the one-man hairband will never be in the NWA Elite. But if I just got better, maybe I could be. So that's the number one reason, like, I dropped all that from a professional standpoint. There were other reasons, but that was, like, always in my mind,
And you never got to be in the NWA Elite, but you did get to have a run where he was your manager in one of the offshoot promotions that we did on off weekends there during the big Anarchy run for the GWP out of the Canton, Waleska, Georgia area. I had a great feud with the regular guys who later went on to become the technicians in Anarchy, where Jeff G. Bailey was your manager. So you did get to work with him a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing that, I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but, after I got to know him, and, I never didn't want to be in the Elite. But we had a conversation one time, and there was a guy, it's not worth mentioning, but there was a guy there that I worked closely with, and Bailey was like, oh, man, just one day I could get my hands on him and really make him something. He could be in the Elite. He said this to me, and I was like, what? That guy? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, why? So obviously to me this is kind of heartbreaking, like, what the fuck? And he explained it to me, and it somewhat changed the way I viewed it, because I was like, okay, there's certain things that he looks for and wants that matter more than just being good. But as I thought about it, because trust me, I thought about it constantly, because it was still a goal, and after getting to know him better and having conversations where he would tell me about guys he managed, the guys he wanted to and stuff, Bailey he had wrestlers, quote unquote, but it was never the same Bailey. Bailey needed the monsters, the killers, the giants. That's what he liked. That's who he liked to manage. That's who he liked to have in his stable, on his team. And I get that. So there's nothing that would have made sense and been good business that I could have ever done to really fit that mold. You know, I mean, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Like, I mean, he had a decent run with like Jeff Lewis in the Elite, and of course, Shatter kind of was, but he was such an attraction in and of himself anyway. That's more what Bailey sunk his teeth in. Guys like Chemo, and like Chemo was just an amazing talent. Like, David, the guy, behind Chemo was a decent enough worker, but he embraced the Chemo gimmick and the ideal of what he was supposed to do, and he listened to Jeff implicitly, and he turned him into such a very special star. And I was really pissed off with the way they handled the booking of Chemo at the time. I remember, like they turned him babyface out of nowhere for no fucking good reason, and it's like they had this great kabuki-like fucking heel with Jeff as the Gary Hart, and people bought into it. Man, he was a star. And, of course, people wanted to cheer him because, he was cool, but as long as you had Bailey with him, they weren't going to fucking cheer him. If you booked him right, they weren't. And there was some kerfluffle with Jerry and something else. Jerry really wanted to turn him babyface. They ended up turning him babyface, and I just hated that. I thought it sucked. But, of course, he ended up being a big star as a babyface, too, and unfortunately, he's had a freak injury that ended his career. But if you want to go check out some of the cool, unique moments of the NWA Elite from the Anarchy era, check out, of course, the run with Shatter and Chemo as well, because that was some fantastic stuff. And Bailey, I mean, getting to work, unseating him from the top manager spot I mentioned for a year, but then what that also did was lay the groundwork perfectly for us to work together and feud with each other the next year. And so, he went on and kind of did his thing, feuding for the championship with Jeff Lewis on the undercard. It wasn't really on the undercard, it was the championship, but, the thing with the Rejects versus Team Anarchy was just so hot, we were on top. And but we did our whole run, and then come the next year, of course, our paths are going to have to cross. Eventually, we're not going to be able to peacefully coexist and fight separate battles with two stables of that size that are both heels, all going after the same thing. So, of course, the Devil's Rejects and the NWA Elite cross paths. And we got to feud, and we got to cut promos against each other. We got to have matches against each other, and the chemistry was just like no one I've ever worked with because we had that personal connection, and we just went for broke and did great business. That's when we did the headline the Mountain Center in the War Games with outdrew TNA. It was that feud that headlined that, and one of my all-time favorite spots that I ever did as a manager as well. Like there was a big Falls Count Anywhere match, and all the guys were down in the match. It was long way through a grueling contest, and I have my Staff of Righteousness, which has like a goat skull on the end of it with these two fucking horns protruding out. And Bailey's on the other side of the ring, and I finally get him cornered, and the people are going nuts. They hate us both, but they switched back and forth during the feud on who they wanted to see get their ass kicked more, which was quite entertaining. Neither one of us was really the babyface or the heel. I mean, we're both heels. But like I said, the people chose a favorite each time. So I had Bailey cornered, and they're fucking buzzing. The people are coming up. It's a big show. It's a packed house. And here I come. I scream, charge, and I fucking run at him with the Staff of Righteousness. And, I was barefoot at the time, doing the whole holy man shtick. I felt the barefoot look was a great way to go, and it had got so much heat. People hated it. Those fucking rednecks would cuss at me all the time. Put your goddamn shoes on, you stupid motherfucker. Like, all the time. So, I'm charging at Bailey with his fucking staff and about to spear him with my goat skull. And he pulls out a fucking satchel of thumbtacks out of his pocket like some shit from fucking Spy versus Spy. And fucking drops it right in front of me, and like fucking Wile E. Coyote, I fucking land on the thumbtacks with my feet, and of course, like people still talk about that to this day, and they still ask me about pulling those damn thumbtacks out of my feet, and it was quite fucking painful, but a memory that I will never forget. But Jeff G. Bailey, probably next to Bill Barron's, the most important figure in all of Anarchy, and it could probably be argued that he was as important as Bill in a different way. But also one of my dearest friends. I'm gonna fucking blow the lid off of him a little bit here, but motherfucker bailed me out of jail one time. That's what a fucking dear friend that guy is. I can't tell you too many people that would pony up a nice chunk of change at like 3 a.m. to fucking bail somebody out of jail. But, the evil Jeff G. Bailey did that for his homeboy. He's no less than fucking family to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was there for that whole program, and you mentioned the chemo thing. Chemo, the person was an awesome dude. I remember they definitely hot-shotted turning him babyface. It was one of those wrestling things that a lot of times happens, and I mean, but it did get over like $1 million. But what do you think? Because I didn't see them all up close and personally, but I thought the whole Shatter chemo thing was kind of Bailey's. Yeah, I mean, it seemed kind of like his best thing, and I think he even told me one time that his favorite thing that he had done was managing Shatter and chemo. I think, don't quote me, but I think he said that.
No, it ranks up there with AJ and Killings and some of the other stuff that he did, I'm sure, and it may be his absolute favorite. I know at the time it was, but lots of things are my favorite thing at the time, and you have to go back and kind of look at things objectively down the road when you're not so closely attached to it. But I'd say if he doesn't, he would rank it right up there with the top stuff. I mean, it's my favorite stuff as a manager that he did. Like, I felt he really got to fully sink his teeth into that, and the creation and development of chemo, which was all on him. I mean, I had a little bit of input on it here and there, but it was 99.5% Bailey. And, I think really my only contribution to the whole act was I suggested he do some sort of wild man or savage, and chemo was the guy suggested for the spot. And, of course, finding out he was of Korean descent, the whole is basically a combination of Pak Song Nam from Florida and the Great Kabuki, and he was just a fucking amazing attraction.
Yeah, definitely. So you're right. And Bailey had more of a presence on screen than Bill, obviously. I think kind of a backbone, and that's really saying something considering he wasn't an in-ring competitor. Probably had 5 matches his whole damn career or something. You know how those spots go, but he's probably, he was the centerpiece of this company, that Wildside and Anarchy, and was there until the very end. And another guy that's super talented. Getting to, I knew you as a great commentator, but seeing you manage, like, okay, he's awesome. Can he do more than the Rejects thing? And then you would do stuff with like the Hate Junkies, who were a great team, and branched out a little bit. And working with you at Empire, it's like, okay, this guy knows his shit. But there's always that Bailey was just a little more my style, just because of his shtick, and had a little, a Jim Cornette, but slightly Bobby Heenan feel, sometimes more Cornette than Heenan, but you know what I mean. But Anarchy produced with you and Bailey two of the greatest managers that I think could have jobs on any stage and be successful. And that's really saying something for independent wrestling. Hell, wrestling today at all, with the way managers have, kind of fall to the wayside.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it, man. Fuck yeah. It's, I just love the fucking business, and, I like doing whatever, the spot calls for. Like, to me, it's like, it's fun to get out there and get over and get your love and fucking, and be the center of attention, but that's not always your spot. And you gotta go with the spot that works. And, that's Bailey taught me that, and, I've been much more of a utility player, but he also had behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know, he was the television editor of Anarchy for many years. He was very involved in the booking. And even though, Bill Behrens and Todd Sexton were always the bookers of record, except for that little brief time that I was and the Dyksburg was. But Bailey, nothing really went through without going through Bailey. If he didn't like something, he was going to pitch a bitch fit about it. And 9 times out of 10, he could make Todd and Bill see his point of view.
I remember just telling people, like, you think I'm bad, you need to go hang out with Bailey and let him cuss you like a dog sometimes.
Oh, yeah, you're such a fucking teddy bear. You know, like, the guys come back and you're like, okay, well, this is good and this kind of sucked and this is good, but, you just kind of give it to them straight. If they fuck something up really bad, Bailey will be the first person waiting for them when they come back behind the curtain going, you motherfucker.
Well, Bailey has to be working at some show where he can get away with shit because he could have T-shirts with that catchphrase, you motherfucker. I've never heard an F held out so long in my life, and it's even funnier when the office is closed back there at Anarchy, but you can still hear it plain as day all throughout the locker room. You motherfucker. And he wasn't, and he would show his work, which is what I always try to do. He would explain why you did something that was fucking stupid, and a lot of times he would calm down and kind of could even come back and be like, look, man, you just can't be doing that or blah, 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 which is fine. It's not like he was meticulously just trying to cause trouble and be a dick, it's just how he is, which is, I think what the wrestling business needs sometimes. But yeah. And man, reflecting, we took a little break, and man, reflecting back on this, it's so crazy. And I've known there's a big difference in the group of guys I worked with at Anarchy than most guys in the wrestling business now. So much hungrier, going there for peanuts, driving hours to and from there for months and months and sometimes years at a time. Fuck Tank. Tank did Wildside and Anarchy, and it was like, how many trips do you think a guy like Tank made to that fucking building? For not a lot of money.
Well, I know how many I made, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so, exactly. You know what I mean? I made a ton, and only in just a handful of years, so I can't even imagine. And there was just so many guys like that. But that's not the only difference, man. Thinking back to some of these guys, and it sucks because I'm so fucking bitter and jaded to the human race in general. So, but you just never know how people, what they really think about you and what they feel about you. And I don't know what any of these guys would mention, thought about me or felt about me. But, man, reflecting back like this, man, those guys, man, I love those guys. And I remember thinking it at the time, but since I've been like, why did I make that trip so long? This is why. These people that we're talking about is absolutely why. Like, it wasn't even so much the love of the business at points. It was just the love of the camaraderie of these guys that were so often guys want to get a push in wrestling and they'll shit on whoever they need to get to it. But I remember if I wasn't on a card, guys being like, why the fuck are you not in this match? Like, you should be in this. I'm going to go talk to Bill. I'm going to go tell him. And I'm like, no, don't do that shit. Or like, why aren't you the tag champs? I'm going to go talk to Bill. And I'm like, no, who does that now? I never have guys coming up to me as a booker saying, hey, why aren't you using this guy? But, especially younger guys, it's different with maybe you or a Tank or an Ace would be like, this guy's getting better, which obviously I see that, but there's never young guys sticking up for each other. You know what I mean? Like, and we did.
Yeah. And I see, like, a lot of the old-timers are like, oh, the concept of the boys is gone. You guys don't know what the boys are because you're all just fucking, you go to these different shows, you don't travel together and shit like that. But, if you were fortunate enough to work in the Wildside crew or the Anarchy crew because that same camaraderie remained, you did get to be part of the boys, and that's something that we got head and shoulders a greater experience in the sport than a lot of guys will of this generation, because that's 3/4 of the fun, honestly, of being involved in this is just like, being around all these same crazy motherfuckers that have this same passion that's really insane to an outsider, that think that what we do to our fucking selves for this shit they would think we're fucking mental cases, people that don't know and understand. But the guys who are willing to do what we did to get there and try to get to the next level and learn and just eat this shit up and soak it up as much as possible and live it with every fucking fiber of our being, That takes a special fucking breed, and those guys were that, and I'm so fucking thankful that we got to be a part of the boys, even though a lot of the old timers say that's something that's a thing of the past. I would have disagreed with that, but you know what you're saying about the current generation, actually, I can kind of now see their point.
Yeah, it's true, man. And I mean, dude, I got treated so well. I mean, made men, you know. I'm in the locker room in Azrael. Never was a piece of shit to me. Always treated me great. Always cool. Slim J, always cool. And these are guys definitely cool with them. Love them. Great dudes. Love talking to them. But we were never best friends. We didn't text. We didn't really chat outside of wrestling, even though I love those guys for sure. But they were always super cool. Judas, always cool. The first time, dude, I call Brody Ray Chase the classiest man in wrestling. The first time I ever met that guy, he's like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you, sir. I've heard about you. You blah, 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 blah." And this guy's a veteran, paid his dues, been a lot of places. He was always class act to me. Classiest guy in wrestling, part 2, Shadow Jackson, who was a made man. Dude, just the coolest guy ever. Always, you know, and I'll be like, "Man, you're the champ. You run this place." And he goes, No. So humble, so unbelievably humble. Because he was the most over motherfucker I've ever seen in my life for a good year and a half there. Have you ever seen anybody more over than him at that point during Shadow Mania?
Nah, man. Like during Shadow, like I had to even milk that Shadow Mania a little bit more when I was a booker because I just knew that it wasn't fucking over. And we did that deal where Truitt ended up bailing out of the War Games, and I think that's actually when he left the company for the last time. And we had that empty spot, and there was certain people fighting for like Don Matthews to get the spot, and there were certain to elevate somebody new, and there was other people fighting for different people. But I was like, no. They're going to fuck. And what did I tell those motherfuckers? I said, when it's announced that Truitt's not here and the babyfaces need a partner, I said, if that crowd isn't chanting Shadow Mania, I will suck 20 cocks right now. And I didn't suck no cocks that night. So
I was during the height when, him and Slim were working with Nemesis and Jay Fury. I was in a battle royal that night, and Nemesis threw me out, and the next team out was Shadow and Slim. I was laying on the floor. Shadow's music hits, the loudest pop I've ever heard in my life. It literally hurt me. It was so loud, my head was ringing for Shadow Jackson. That's a shoot. I laid there on the floor going, holy fuck, that is over. That is what it's like to be over.
Yeah, that motherfucker was ridiculously over. You remember the 06 War Games, which that was like possibly the hottest match we ever had in the Anarchy run. And that was the original Team Anarchy versus the Rejects. And when Shadow fucking power slammed Iceberg, face full of blood, stands up and rips his shirt off like fucking Hogan, you would have thought the goddamn Elvis fucking Presley walked in that motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. And I remember the last Wildside show I went to, Shadow was not on the card. He had worked his ass off to get to that point, and I went up to him and I said, this is bullshit that you're not on this card tonight, and you deserve to be more so, as much as anybody on this card. And he was just, no, man, it's okay. I'm just happy to be here. I was glad to help. And then to see him explode in Anarchy, that makes you feel good about the business, because that, what I just said, the shoot, that happened, and we see what happened with him.
Hell yeah. Well, fuck it, man. We're out of time already. There's so much we haven't covered. I say we bring it back for an Anarchy Reflection Part 2 next week.
I was going to suggest the same thing, but even if we don't, hopefully we can, because, a lot of guys to talk about, but I want to just say it now that maybe this will entice some people, but I'm sure you've said a lot about Bill Behrens over the years because y'all been really close and have been on the podcast a lot, but I want to say something about Bill Behrens, and we definitely don't have enough time for it. So next week, tune in to hear me shoot on Old Man Behrens.
All right, folks. Well, keep one foot in the gutter, one fist in the goal. This is the Ramp Andrew Alexander, and we're out.
This has been a production of the Potty Humor Network. Find us online at youtube.com/Potty Humor or subscribe to us weekly and never miss an episode by searching Potty Humor on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you for listening, and good night.